I think if you were to walk away with one concept today is none of us can outsmart AI, but we can outhumanize it. So when I'm thinking about how do I outhumanize AI, I think about what are things that AI can't do. And so I want to pay them first with value. I want to always lead with value.
Welcome everyone to our Hero Capital Show. I'm your host, Tim Mai, and today we have another amazing guest on the line for you, Mr. Colm McEvilly. And Colm is a fund manager, has raised over $62 million across 24 different projects, totaling over $230 million worth of real estate. Yeah, passionate to help accredited investors, family offices, high net worth individuals build lasting tax advantage wealth through strategic real estate investments, focusing on multifamily, manufactured housing communities, and community impact development. Everyone, let's give Colm a big Texas welcome, y'all. Woohoo!
Whew. It is Cinco de Mayo, so I would just ask everybody has a taco today. And
It's funny, my wife made me a fajitas today, so I think that counts.
close enough. Close
That's
enough.
it.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome. Yeah,
well,
Colm, yeah, share with us a little bit about you and
okay.
how did you get into this world of real estate?
Yeah, I think I have some similar motives to you in terms of giving back, but really everybody has a ticking time bomb. Everybody's gonna die. It's like a real morbid thing to think about. But when I was 30, I had a heart failure, and
Mm.
so I had to have an emergency surgery. Otherwise, I would have died. And I think what happened was I had a real reality check on where I wanted to be, what I wanted to create in my life, and I had a real high income W-2 job, and I just thought it seems every month with my sales manager, my boss talks about what have you done for us lately. So they're always looking at the future, not all this stuff that you've built in the past. And I just thought if I have another health challenge and I'm not able to work, then I don't really have all these income streams to take care of my family and my kids and stuff. So I got into real estate. I bought my first rental in 2013, and I've been adding every couple of years. I'd add another rental, but really, I got into the syndication world listening to one of our meetup guests, Kim Lisa Taylor. She did a podcast in 2016 on Old Dogs podcast with Bill Menacero. I don't know if anybody in SoCal knows who that is, but that was a podcast that really changed my life in terms of realizing that I could not only benefit from creating these income streams myself, but I can help other people get access to these investments. And so I know you have your Haiti fund where you're trying to donate and take a little bit of your income and give it back to communities that need things. I have a community that a lot of people don't often think about, which is people that have trauma as a result of medical operations. There's all sorts of trauma and things that can hold people back from taking chances. And so my personal goal is not only to create income streams for my family, like everybody else has these self-motivated, that's their motive. But also it's to donate a large amount of money, I have a number in mind, back to support those that have had open heart surgery or heart surgeries to pay for their therapy, because it's not talked about. So one of the things I was hoping to talk about today was just adding on to what we talked about in February at the MFIN conference hosted by Disrupt Equity. Basically, what are we seeing in the capital raising today? I would like to talk about 4 pillars for capital raising that I live by, what's changed for capital raising these last couple of years, and some common mistakes that people might be doing. But that connection to Disrupt Equity, circling back, comes back to these in-person events that you're hosting. FIBI, ITI down in LA, they've hosted me a few times, and David H at Disrupt Equity invited me because he saw me present, and so that's when I first met you. But people really need to lean into the power of the personal relationship right now more than ever.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially in a down market like this, it's easy for any one of us can get discouraged because things are harder today than it was in the last 10 years, that's for sure. Right? Yeah, especially in our world with syndications and raising money, and yeah, it is more challenging. And it's always this way in a down market, down real estate market. This is now my second real estate cycle since I've been in real estate. So it was the exact same thing in 2009. Like the sentiment was very down. Everybody, wanted to was having challenges with real estate in 2009. Not a lot of people, I would say, not everybody, but the ones that hung in there and took advantage of the market were the ones that really made so much money when the market cycle turns. And so, yeah, so in today's market, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of syndicators, a lot of fund managers went either went back to the W-2 or did something else. And it's those of us who hang out in these type of communities and inspire each other to hold on and hang on and ride this market cycle out. There's going to be so much opportunities here in 2026 and 27 that's going to set us up really powerfully in the next few years. Yeah,
Just building on that stuff that needs to be communicated to your investors. You talk about when you're talking to investors, you have to paint this picture, not just where they're at, figuring out where they want to be. And when you're painting this picture, you have to talk about that. The grifters and the snakes, they've all been beaten out. They're washed out. Those competition, it's probably the lowest competition in years. So staying in there when you have conviction and capital, that's going to really set us up for that next cycle. But another thing is the pricing is getting rational again. And so go out there and give disrespectful offers more than anything, because maybe they turn you away now, but 6 months from now, they might call you back.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Colm, let's talk about this four pillars that you mentioned. Yeah, expand on that for us.
So I think everyone's seeing a lot of AI, right? And I think if you were to walk away with one concept today is none of us can outsmart AI, but we can outhumanize it. So when I'm thinking about how do I outhumanize AI, I think about what are things that AI can't do. And so I want to pay them first with value. I want to always lead with value. When I'm coming, I'm providing value before I ask for any sale. And an example of that is these takeaways, right? So if I go to your LinkedIn, what do you have on your LinkedIn page? You have your tax book, right?
Yeah.
And that actually is such a great conversation with all the uncertainty in the war and the economy right now with Paul, very politicizing, right? Anytime I hear an investor talk to me about things that are political, I go, that's a great reason to invest in a tax leveraged asset. And then I flip it on them, right? I was like, oh, you don't want to pay taxes? You don't want to fund some more? You don't want to, you want to fund the local libraries, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep more in your pocket. And let's look at ways to keep more money in your bank account. And one of those ways is depreciation through real estate. So the first pillar is pay it first. Show up, add value, educate them before you ask for anything. And then the second thing is, I just love saying this, I always try to jab them in the face with value. So anytime I'm on the phone, I want to use my CRM system to connect them to maybe some information that I saw. Maybe there's a law that changed about housing in Georgia. That comes up. I want to go in my CRM system that's really well manicured, and I want to pop every single person in Georgia. I know who to call. I'm just reaching out to jab them with value so that if it is or isn't applicable, they leave that phone conversation going, man, I'm glad I talked to that guy. And then also another example of jab them in the face with value is you see a lot of these market updates and you see a lot of these newsletters. Most of them are filled with automated AI crap. So make sure that your newsletters is actionable insight. It's not that you can read and say what is going on. It's that you can read and say what's going on and give a prediction. A lot of these guys that were raising a crap ton of money, some of my previous partners, they were known for giving really crazy predictions and they were never held accountable for those things. But the thing that people loved was that infotainment, was that prediction that they made. So if you have a newsletter, don't just share the news. Share actionable insights that somebody can do to take away from that. And again, that goes up to show up with value. So you're always it's not about noise or hype, it's about that actionable insight. And then the last pillar I would say is it's the concept of harvesting trust. You really harvest this relationship through consistency because raising capital isn't one deal, it's a season. So I have investors that have invested with me 5, 6, 7 times. Probably 7 times is probably the most that somebody's invested with me. But it's because I've just showed up over and over again and they know it's that consistency. And it's my job to create a really authentic experience with them that is always value added. If someone's looking at other deals, I have probably 20%, maybe even 30% of my investors in the past will share their investment that they're looking at with me and I'll go through it with them. So the 4 pillars are pay it forward, show up, add value, jab them in the face with value, and then harvest trust through consistency.
I love that. Yeah, and I think that a lot of time people don't realize how important those four pillars are in building the trust that's needed to be able to ask for the investors' money, right? And yeah, when it comes to raising money, it's not about the deal. Very little of it. You have a few people who invest for the purpose of the returns, but majority of investors out there, they invested because they trusted the person they're investing with. For yeah, sometimes they might not know much about the deal at all, but purely because you know what, Colm, I trust you. You think this is a good deal, so I'm going to invest in this deal, right?
I had
And
that happen last week. Literally, someone they came to our meetup and in person they said, "Hey, I'm investing $100,000. I like your operating partner, and we'll talk more about the power of a good operator now. But I'm really investing because I trust you, and the fact that you trust your operating partner is the most important thing." But the whole point of this season of trust creation is to create an experience so authentic and so human that the only byproduct is trust.
yep, I love that. Yeah. There's a couple of things. Number one, all of us, if you think about, if you could look back in your life, right? The people that you love the most, love and trust the most are the people that have added the most value to you. Your parents, your teachers, your doctors, right? So all of us are very wired to like and trust the people that add value to you. So yeah, I love that. Let's talk about the in-person events because we're on Zoom right now,
Yeah.
and as big as the internet has gotten, there is nothing that can build trust faster than in-person meetings. In person, face to face, it's just accelerate that as much internet marketing that I do, nothing can beat the in-person aspect of it. And so let's talk about this. How long have you been running this local meeting and what inspired you to start that to begin with?
A couple things. One, I started in Sacramento. Also, before I answer this question, is it okay if attendees ask questions? Is there a way for them to
There,
chirp
there,
in?
there will be a Q&A session, yeah,
Okay.
after the interview, yes.
Okay. So there was a meetup in Sacramento that I was co-hosting in 2018, 2019, 2020. We got up to 158 people and we were hosting it three times a month. And then Mike DeRosier on this call, who he started BAM in 2021. And then I started helping in February of 23. So I've been helping BAM since 23. And that group gets almost 100. We're so close to getting 100 every month. And it's really high quality operators, active people looking to learn. And the bigger the group, the more cross pollination and the more value there is for more attendees. So if you're in the Bay Area, reach out to me, contact me. I'll get you the information for BAM. I also host another one a week after on the fourth Tuesday. That's also in the East Bay. It's slightly different topics. And that one's called Rise Real Estate Investing Community. But the whole goal is to connect people because I've invested, I think, 14 different projects with people I've met in person. And you get to meet these people over time and you meet them separately outside the event. And you can really ask more in-depth questions, figure out their operations better, see if they're an ethical person. If you're a good judgment of character, it's the best way to judge somebody's character is to meet them in person. Like I see Julian doing videos at the end of our BAM. I get to see authentically wants to help people. You can see when the video's off, like Julian is feeling good. He's, you know what, that's going to help someone. Versus I've seen some people, the video turns off and like, you know what I mean? It's all a show. You could tell if it's a show or not best in person. I actually was helping run some boot camps and some meetups for one of my past business partners in the Bay too. And there's some great meetups in the South Bay as well. But I just think it really has to do with you can really read a person a lot better. And then you could talk to people and get a feel for that person. I was going to do a project with a guy in Sacramento and I was talking to a couple other people and this is before all the bigger pockets reviews. And like I'm hearing in person, oh, this guy is in litigation with this person because of this. And it's like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to put my capital at risk with that person because the reasons weren't they were in his control why there was a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's just so much you can do in person, but even from an LP perspective, a lot of my investors are people that I have met with in person at some capacity, whether they met me in person and invested with me or met me online. And then we met in person somehow, and then it just accelerate that investments. And yeah, if you do meet investors online, and if you know that they are like a bigger investor, it's definitely worth going to wherever they are locally and have that in-person meeting with them
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
I got to flip it on you, Tim. All this is great to talk about, but it's that action that really makes a difference. And before you can take that action, you have to have a positive mindset. Myself and even yourself, you talked about some of the limiting beliefs that you'd had in the past. And maybe for the benefit of people in the audience, you had mentioned on Blue Ring on a podcast I'd watched you a while ago, you had a friend, Javier H., out of Houston, that helped you get past your limiting beliefs. Can you touch on where you were at with your limiting
yeah.
beliefs and what the difference was? Was it a motto? Was it a saying? Was it a mantra that you created every day so that moving forward you felt I am enough, I can do this, I'm going to make a big difference? What are the things that helped you get past your limiting beliefs? Because everybody really needs that first before they can start executing what we're talking about.
Yeah, great. Thanks for bringing that up, Com. Yeah, so I was being interviewed on another podcast, and I share how I've been in real estate since 2002. So that's 24 years ago. 20 of those years I've been in single family home space, right? I've done tons of fix and flips and rentals, and in 2021 I met Javier Hinojo, and we were talking. Yeah, Tim, I used to do what you do, but these days each deal that I do adds at least $1 million to my net worth. And yeah, and yeah, that really, it just clicked me differently at that time. It's like, wow, Javier doesn't, he's smart, but he doesn't look any smarter than I am. He doesn't look, it's like he's a very normal guy, right? And I'm like, man, this all these years I didn't get into multifamily and commercial real estate is because I used to think these deals are too big, too hard, needs too much expertise, needs too much money, all these things that I thought what it takes to be in this industry. And having Javier share with me that, and he was doing a lot of multifamily, self-storage warehouses. He was pretty diversified. I'm like, when he shared that with me, it really just clicked because for me, he's just like me. If this
Mhm.
guy can do it, I can do it, right? And that was the click that I needed. And then at that time, Javier's daughter was turning 16, my son was turning 17. And I asked Javier, I was like, hey, what do you think about getting our kids together, and then we'll get other teenagers together to teach them about this multifamily commercial real estate, so that way they can skip the whole single family homes like I did, right? So through that, we call it the Teen Millionaire Challenge program. And through that program, we taught, it was 19 teenagers, ages 16 to 19 years old. And yeah, through that program, they analyzed and made offers on over $1 billion worth of real estate. And this was 2021, yeah, 21, 22, and at the peak of the market. But I get to watch these kids, young adults, make calls and talk to brokers and analyze deals like it's nothing. It's like it's another class in school, right? And I'm like, wow, if these young people can do it, I can do it. So that was the second aha, if you can call it that. But yeah, so after that, finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna give this a try. And since then, I went all in on this in this business. And yeah, and you mentioned earlier about community and being with others, right? Is that's part of the effect that you get. I look back in my life, the things that I've been able to have the biggest breakthroughs in, especially when it comes to my career, has been because I was inspired by someone. And yeah, and whenever I'm inspired by someone, I'm like, man, if that person can do it, I can do it, right? That's if you call it the mantra. But that's what I took on. And yeah, so here we are. I built a huge community within this industry. I've been involved in 14 different projects, and more than that now. But anyways,
Well,
something
that
like that.
community is your sounding board too, and you're not always feeling 100%. I like when I go to the in-person. Another benefit too is about the momentum. So when I go to these events, if I'm having a bad day, it's all in my mind too because I got everything I need in my life. But if I'm not feeling good and I go to this event and someone's got 10% energy that's positive, I'm gonna take on some of that positive energy. I cannot go to a meetup feeling upset and bad and leave feeling worse. It's like going to the gym. Maybe everybody complains, oh, I gotta drive to the gym, I gotta do this. Nobody complains about after the gym how they feel. And so the same thing's in a meetup. They're the sounding board. They help you prevent making mistakes. Like I talked about my example earlier with choosing not to work with somebody, but also it's exposure. When you cross pollinate two ideas, now each of you have two ideas if you started with one. And that could be a positive, or that could be like an idea that can help your business or their business. It's just, you can't not leave a meetup feeling bad. So it just keeps my momentum going.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the whole mindset stuff, it's been a long journey. And yeah, it's a continual thing. We all have this negative self-talk. That's our worst enemy, by the way. More than anyone else, our negative self-talk. And I've really learned to love that part of me. Funny, I won't go too long on this, but I think this was about a year ago. I attended this 10-day silent meditation retreat. They take away your phone. You like, yeah, yeah, you're meditating from starting at 4 a.m. There's breaks in between, but each meditation session lasts anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours long. You have breaks and lunch and dinner, but you start meditating at 4 a.m. You end at 9:30. And at 9:30, I think I was like day 3 or so in. My legs were so numb. And I was like, 'cause you imagine you're sitting there like yeah, all kinds of pain show up. But anyways, my leg was so numb, so hurting. And I had to negotiate with my legs because I got on day one, I got called out from moving so much. The teacher had to say, Tim, you need to sit still. And because I would change my position and stretch my legs, all kinds of stuff. I couldn't sit still. Anyways, I tried, and then I got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, I have to move. And then I talked to my mind. I said, okay, because they call your mind your monkey brain, right? Your monkey mind, because it goes all over the place. So I told my mind, I said, mind, I don't want to call you my monkey mind. You're just as much of me as I am of you. So I want to create partnership with you. It's more about what I need internally. I can do stuff externally. Let's create this partnership. And I was like, I'm gonna give you a name. I'm gonna call you my little brother. And together we can do this. Together we can do this. And then so while that was going on, I was like, oh, I couldn't take it, right? And then so I started addressing my self-talk, my inner self-talk. Come on, little brother, we can do this. We can do this. And then all of a sudden, the numbness completely went away. I was like, what? What happened? And yeah, and so from that point on, for the rest of the session, I was able to sit still. I didn't have to. But there was a lot of negotiating with my inner self through that whole experience. But yeah, so I don't know how I got off on that
Oh, no,
topic.
no, it's about mind over matter, right? They say the 40% rule is something floating around right now where your body wants to give out and you're not even halfway through what you can actually do. So it's about your mind telling your body, it's okay, you can do this. You're not actually close to the failure. I was watching a race a long time ago, and it was an outdoor race. It was like a 50K outdoor. And I remember watching this guy, crazy athlete, slender, muscular, built, and his body was moving. And I watched his head, and his head was still. And I just imagine it's, oh my gosh, the head is actually the motherboard. It's where all the commands are going from. The body is literally just doing what the mind says. And the head's not even listening to the things that are coming back from the body. And so that was an example where you gave, where you just negotiated with your body and you realize who's actually controlling what. It's the mind, right? So
Yeah.
you bring up a parable. Have you ever heard of the man of action versus the man of thought? Okay, so there's this parable, and I think this is an old Russian one, where you have a guy that's extremely intelligent, and then you have a simple-minded person. And this goes back to, you see somebody doing something that you're not there yet, and I could do that, but you're not doing it. So the man of action, He sees a problem and he approaches it, and he's only smart enough and intelligent enough to think of three ways. The man of thought is way more intelligent. He thinks of 20 different ways to address this. And the man of thought starts going through each way slowly before he takes action. Meanwhile, the man of action has already failed on the first two and he found the solution on the third. The man of thought is on the seventh thing, but he hasn't actually taken any action. So it was the simpler mind that actually executed it and got it done because the more intelligent mind overthought things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also could be an analogy for why certain sexes are in construction. But I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah. Especially in this industry for sure. We are dealing with big numbers, right? We're dealing with a lot of money, and yeah, mistakes can be very costly. And that's the reason why we want to be in communities. We want to be in partnerships where we can learn from the mistakes of others, and yeah, and take it one small step at a time, right? And yeah, looking back in hindsight, obviously I so wish I had started this industry back in 2002 or even in 2009 when I had met someone that got into multifamily in 2009 here in Houston. He was buying properties using hard money lenders at 14% interest rate and was still able to make these deals work. That's how cheap the deals were back then. And yeah, I met him, I saw what he did, but my limiting belief couldn't, yeah, was at that time I still couldn't overcome my limiting beliefs to do it. But yeah, it's the sooner that we can take action, the sooner we will get the clarity that you need. That parable you mentioned is exactly it, right? It's because a lot of time we don't take action is because we don't see what's beyond what would the outcome be? What would the impact be if I take this action? And so we try to think it through, but in reality, we will never be able to truly think it through until we take the action needed. And yeah, it's like driving a car. Your headlight can only take you so far. To get beyond that, you gotta move, the car has to move beyond it to see further. And so
Version
yeah,
one's better than version none. Always learn by
yeah,
doing. So
exactly. Yeah. Share with us in the Bay Area, one of the things that you mentioned that kind of blew my mind. You said an average net worth of an NVIDIA employee was how much? It's
I got to look that number up, but yeah, I think it was something like 15 or maybe 15 or 25 million just for being an employee at NVIDIA. Yeah,
wow.
you could look it up. It'd be online, but yeah, that's pretty crazy topic. But if those people love capital gains, let them have their capital gains. But there's going to be a lot of people looking for solutions for that. And so this is where our community can help them.
Yeah, for sure. So there's so much wealth there in the Bay Area, and I know there's a lot of operators and syndicators and capital raisers there in the Bay Area as well. But is that where most of your investors are in, or do you also, attract investors online and other places?
So I've worked for a couple large firms. You can check them out on LinkedIn, right? But right now we're hyper focused on building in-person relationships in the Bay. We're not going to turn down funds away from other people, but it's just we want to have super fans. We want to create a real level of trust. We want to get creative. We want to be able to manipulate and change any documents for the investors' needs if needed. So there's a couple investors that have these one-off things that we accommodated for. Really, it's the Bay, and then maybe we'll go down to LA. But there's so much in the Bay that we could just focus on and help with. I think at a high level, well, another thing I wanted to really touch on right now is there's a new normal to raising capital. The days of running Facebook ads and sending somebody to talk to a salesperson, those are long gone. I think the average sales cycle is about 183 days. Sometimes for some of the companies I work for, it's been 70 days, but we have to think about what's changed in the last few years, and that's really AI, right? AI can automate information, they can scale communication, they can even mimic expertise when they're looking at information, but they cannot become human. So AI can't harvest trust. That's where the salesperson comes in. Only humans can do that. So that's where the whole idea of working with someone and really understanding, like some of these people have been burned. How do you work with someone that's been burned in the past? So it's about creating a real relationship where they feel like you actually give a damn. And in some sense, I'm asking the salespeople to almost be like a financial planner. If someone's talking to me and I know that there's ancillary things that they need help with, I'm there to help them on that too. Because if I can help expose them not only to good resources, like I'm always promoting different retirement account companies, different tax planning. There's different groups that I've been a part of that will promote that. Here, it's not about, okay, they're not investing with me. I'm not talking about this thing I'm trying to promote and raise capital for right now. It's about I'm helping them build a bigger pot so that in the future they'll have more discretionary income where maybe they'll come think about me again, but they will know that I added value to them and they will know that I helped make their pot bigger because I want someone to go, damn, every time I talk to Colm, I had to get more money. And maybe it's not just that investment.
Yeah.
You have to think about how AI has helped with the decks. There's way over polished decks and people are getting pushed to create this manufactured urgency. And I think that's a real thing that investors are seeing. They're not really understanding where this urgency is coming from. And there's not really a relationship and there's really no care. So coming in and acting like that financial planner, which you're not, there's definitely some boundaries that what line you can't cross when you're talking about certain things. But you just want to be that person where I said, show up, add value first. Every time they talk to you, there's something of value that you're offering them because you're really encapsulating that person's financial strategy. I want to know about everything they're doing. I want to know about their kids. I want to know when they're graduating. I want to know when their retirements are. I want to know about their parents because those are different things that are going to impact the way that they make a decision on an investment, whether it be the timeline or the return profile.
That's good. Yeah. Have you all, you're definitely very in tuned and you know how important relationships are and adding values are value is. Have you always been that way or is that something that you learned through your career?
So I have an engineering degree from Cal Poly. I used to work at Trane and Johnson Controls, which were two of the biggest HVAC manufacturers. So that type of sales was really consultative because I'd go in, I'd work my way up the business. I'd start at the operator and the operator cared mostly about cost. Then I'd get to the director and the director cared more about ROI. And then I'd get to the C-level and the C-level cared mostly about image. Like when you're talking to a C-level person, when you put a proposal on their table, the way to sell that thing is not on the finances and on the product features. It's on how if you buy this product and you invest in this product, your bonus 2 years from now is going to be bigger. It's the whole image of the company that's going to change. And so there's a book I recommend. It's called The Challenger Customer. And the whole point of that book is you have to understand when you're dealing with people in a group decision process, you have to identify your horse that you need to ride to get the information. You have to identify the horse that you need to ride to get the decision. There's different influencing factors in a group. And then I came over to private equity. I'm helping these investors and it's a way different arena. In the past, I'd always get invited to the table, but I had maybe 5 or 6 competitors. Here, all of us have 1,000 different people we're competing with. So what do? What you do is you can't dictate the information that they get. You cannot control the information they get, but you can try to help control how they receive that information. So when you're showing up and you're educating them, you're not only saying, hey, look, you have a problem, here's a solution, here's how we can get here. We're saying, hey, look, you want to accomplish this? Make sure you're aware of these things that impact this. So here's a perfect example. I was looking at a product, an investment that was in Dallas, and it was in South Dallas. Okay, so an investor of mine sends me this investment opportunity in South Dallas, and I'm looking at the pitch deck, which I think a more experienced operator should call it a due diligence package for their investors, by the way. So start calling it a due diligence package, not a pitch deck. I'm looking at it. This is in South Dallas, and I know people know South Dallas. This is south of Oaklawn, right? And they were talking about SMU, which is 7.2 miles away or something from this property. And I said, hey, Mr. Investor, this opportunity it's near my favorite restaurant, actually, Elaine's. If anybody's in Dallas, you want some Jamaican food that slaps, you got to go to Elaine's in South Dallas. It's on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Boulevard. It is worth it. Go during the day. So it's right by my favorite restaurant. But this OM is talking about how all the freeways and everything, this property is a good fit for an SMU student. It's like everybody knows SMU students are literally millionaires. They're the wealthiest kids. But if you don't know that, maybe you think that's a great opportunity for student housing. And so I told this investor, I said, hey, look, this is how on future investments, here's a couple websites to go to get area income information. Check the income because real estate's hyper local. Check the income for this area because realistically, an asset like this is going to have people that are only going to work or go to school within a certain amount of distance. And so that person, I think, really appreciated that. I don't know what ever happened to that investment, but I felt like it was almost unethical advertising to connect Essen to South Dallas. But that's
That's
just,
good.
yeah, that's just
I
a
love
way
it.
to try to help control how people receive information. My old business partner would do, he would do these different parameters that I can share with everyone about things to look for in a city, things to look for in a neighborhood. One thing that methodology did not include was the supply. So that's another thing. And I could share Yardi matrix information that shows supply. But it's just like, how can I educate someone to protect themselves? Because I can't talk to these people all the time.
Yep, no, that's really good. So, which leads perfectly into how, yeah, if those that are interested in having that you just mentioned, getting those matrix and stuff, how should one best reach out to you and connect with you?
How's one?
How do you want people to reach out to you to
Yeah,
connect
yeah.
with you?
So first thing they could book a call. Easy link is rise360ventures.com/COLM. That's my name. That's how you can book a call with me. I'm here to help. I'm a conduit of information. I'm a conduit of relationships. Anybody that knows me knows that's the case. The second thing is hopefully people in the Bay come and see you present at our BAM meetup. We have an opening in August. Otherwise, I'd like to see you in November. Typically September, October September's usually a really bad month because people are going back to school and stuff like that. In October, I'll be out of town. I don't want to miss you. So let's have a conversation about getting you to our
Yeah.
in-person event in the Bay in August or in November. It's a fantastic venue, downtown Danville. But again, so to contact me, you could text me or just do rise360ventures.com/Colm, or you can email me at Colm, COLM, at rise360ventures.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Colm. Yeah. And I put the link in the chat to book a call with Colm there as well. Yeah. We're gonna now open up for questions from the audience.